Dear senior friends, let me share something I learned throughout my 75 years of life. You know that urge we have to tell all our stories when we're gathered with family? I've been through this so many times. I remember one special Sunday when my grandchildren came to visit. I was so excited to tell them about my youth that I barely noticed my youngest grandson trying to show me his new school project. It was my daughter who gently caught my attention. "Dad, let Johnny show his work too." At that moment, I realized something important. I was so focused on sharing my memories that I was missing the chance to learn about my own grandson's achievements and dreams. Look, there's nothing wrong with sharing our experiences. They're valuable and can teach a lot. The problem lies in how we do it. As years go by, we accumulate so many interesting stories that sometimes it feels like we'll burst if we don't tell them all at once. But we need to learn to pace them. I noticed there are some common situations where we seniors tend to monopolize conversations. Family gatherings in the past, I used every Sunday lunch to tell and retell the same stories from my youth. "Do you know how hard it was in my day?" was my favorite phrase. Until one day I observed my grandchildren exchanging bored looks. It was a moment of deep reflection. Meeting with friends. During coffee afternoons with my neighborhood friends, I noticed that sometimes we'd spend hours with just one person dominating the conversation while others merely nodded along. Doctor's appointments. Even during medical consultations, I sometimes caught myself telling long stories about old problems, forgetting to focus on what really mattered at that moment. How can we improve this? I learned some techniques that have helped me greatly. The 3-minute rule. I created the 3-minute rule for myself. When I start telling a story, I try to keep it within that time. It's enough to share what's important without tiring the listener. If people show interest and ask questions, then I continue with more details. The ping-pong exercise. I think of conversation as a ping-pong game. I speak a little and pass the ball to the other person. When I tell something about my youth, I immediately follow up with, "And you, how was it when you were that age?" Or, "What's changed since then, in your opinion?" The notepad technique. I started keeping a small notebook where I write down stories I want to tell. This helps me in 2 ways. First, I don't forget important stories. Second, I can choose the most appropriate moment to share them. The benefits of listening. More. When I started practicing more listening, I discovered a new world. I learned about technology from my grandchildren, gained different perspectives on life from my children, and even made new friends in the senior group, simply because I started listening more. I remember a special situation with my 15-year-old granddaughter, Sarah. Instead of talking about how difficult studying was in my time, I decided to ask about what it's like to study today with all this technology. We talked for hours. She explained about study apps, showed me how she does online research, and even taught me how to use some tools on my phone. It was a wonderful exchange. Practical tips I learned. Observe people's body language. If they start looking at their watch frequently, if they keep fidgeting with their phones, if they stop asking questions or making comments, these are signs that we need to give space in the conversation. Use conversation hooks. When someone comments on something, take the opportunity to ask questions about that subject instead of diverting to your own stories. For example, if my grandson talks about a difficult test, instead of telling how tests were in my day, I ask, "What did you find most challenging about this test?" Practice active listening. Make eye contact. Nod to show you're paying attention. Make small, encouraging comments. Don't interrupt to tell your own story. Create specific moments to share memories. In our family, we created Memory Moment. During some Sunday lunches, each person has their time to share an important story, including the children. This made our gatherings more organized and interesting for everyone. Remember, our stories are valuable, but others' experiences are too. When we balance speaking and listening, we create deeper and more meaningful connections with our loved ones. We don't need to tell everything at once. We have time, and each moment can be an opportunity for mutual sharing. As my granddaughter says, "Grandpa, the best conversation is one where everyone participates." And she's right. Since I learned to pace my stories and give more space to others, our family gatherings became much more pleasant and closer. You can start today. In your next conversation, try asking more questions than telling stories. Notice how people respond positively when they feel truly heard. It's a simple change that can completely transform your relationships. Moderating pride, the wisdom of being humble. As someone who has built a lifetime of experiences, I learned a valuable lesson about pride. I remember a specific situation that changed my perspective. I was at a retirees group meeting, excitedly talking about my son's success as a doctor, when I noticed the downcast look of Betty, my friend, whose son was unemployed. Excessive pride can create invisible barriers. Throughout 40 years as a teacher, I accumulated various certificates and recognitions. I learned to transform my achievements into bridges for genuine connections. Before, my daughter is a manager at a major bank. Now, watching our children's professional growth teaches us a lot about persistence. Moments that require moderation. Family gatherings instead of comparing grandchildren. Tommy is already in college while the neighbor's kids. I value each one's unique characteristics I transformed. In my day, it was harder into how interesting to see different ways of overcoming challenges. Social gatherings I replaced. My beach house is wonderful. With conversations about special moments shared with family, I learned to celebrate others' simple achievements with the same enthusiasm. I celebrate the big ones. Career conversations I used to focus on titles and positions. I used to mention this at every opportunity, until I realized I was pushing people away instead of bringing them closer. Today, I share learnings and overcome challenges, connecting with others' experiences. Practical strategies I developed. The mirror technique. Before talking about achievements, I ask myself, how can this information help or inspire who's listening? The gratitude exercise. Instead of listing achievements, I share moments of gratitude. I'm grateful for having learned so much from my students over the years. The balance rule for each achievement mentioned, I acknowledge a difficulty, overcome or an important lesson learned. Examples of transformation. About children. Before, my son has 3 postgraduate degrees. Now, it's rewarding to see our children finding their own paths. About possessions. Before, I managed to buy 3 apartments. Now, I'm grateful for being able to build security for my family. About travel. Before, I've visited 20 countries. Now, each trip taught me something about different cultures and ways of living. Important learnings. True wealth lies in relationships. I realized shared memories are worth more than material achievements. I learned to value small moments of connection. The power of vulnerability. Sharing challenges and difficulties brings us closer than showing off successes. Admitting mistakes and learnings creates authentic connections. The importance of context, not. Everyone had the same opportunities. Each person has their own journey and timing. The value of empathetic listening, celebrating others' small victories, offering support in difficult moments. Practical tips for moderating pride. The before speaking exercise. Take a deep breath. Think about the impact of your words. Consider the other person's moment. The practice of empathy. Observe the environment. Notice facial expressions. Adapt your communication to the context. The reconnection technique. If you realize you've exaggerated, apologize. Redirect the conversation to the other person. Show genuine interest. The habit of gratitude. Keep a gratitude journal. Share credits with others. Acknowledge the role of chance and privileges. Transformative stories. On my 80th birthday, instead of listing achievements, I decided to publicly thank each person who contributed to my journey. The impact was profound. I saw tears in the eyes of family and friends. When my grandson didn't pass the college entrance exam, instead of comparing him to the success of other grandchildren, I shared my own story of trying 3 times before getting into college. This brought us much closer. Practical conclusion. True success isn't about accumulating achievements, but using our experiences to inspire and connect. By moderating pride, we open space for deeper and more meaningful relationships. Remember, each person has their own story of overcoming. Our role is not to overshadow, but to illuminate each other's paths with humility and wisdom. Avoiding hasty judgments. The wisdom of patient observation. As someone who's 78 years old, I've learned that quick judgments often make us lose valuable connections. Let me share my learning journey. Transformative moment. When my granddaughter started using blue hair and piercings, My first reaction was disapproval. In my time, this meant rebellion and bad influence, I thought. However, instead of criticizing, I decided to understand her reasons. I discovered a talented young artist who expressed her creativity through appearance while maintaining excellent grades and volunteer work. Overcoming common prejudices, modern appearance before. This youth doesn't dress properly. Now, I understand that each generation has its form of expression. Example, I met a pink-haired young man who is a dedicated nurse, technology before. Cell phones are a waste of time. Now I learned it's a tool for work and connection experience, my online support group for seniors' new family arrangements. Before, I judged different families. Now I value love and respect in any configuration. Learning my divorced neighbor is an exemplary father. Practical strategies, reflective pause, breathe before giving an opinion. Ask yourself, what don't I know about this situation? Example, when I misjudged a young single mother, I later discovered her story of overcoming questions before conclusions. What led you to this choice? How do you feel about this? Can you explain it better to me? Empathy exercise. Imagine yourself in the situation. Consider different contexts. Remember your own past mistakes. Personal transformations. In the church group before, I criticized those who missed events. Now I understand different responsibilities. Result, more welcoming community with neighbors. Before, I complained about young people's noise. Now, I understand their socialization needs consequence. More harmonious relationships in the family. Before, I imposed my opinions on grandchildren's upbringing. Now, I respect parents' choices. Benefit, greater closeness with children and grandchildren. Tools for change, reflection, journal. Note, automatic judgments, question their origins, seek alternative. Perspectives, active listening practice. Maintain eye contact, show genuine interest. Avoid interruptions with opinions, self-awareness, exercise, identify prejudice, triggers, recognize thought patterns, develop new responses. Transformative situations, the tattooed neighbor. I was against tattoos until I met Jack, a university professor covered in them. His stories changed my perspective. The different daughter-in-law, I initially disapproved of her minimalist lifestyle. Today I learn about conscious consumption. The youth group. I judged their noise in the square until I participated in their community projects. Benefits of change, deeper relationships, genuine connections, meaningful conversations, greater mutual trust, personal growth, more open mind, less stress, more learning, more harmonious environment, fewer conflicts, greater cooperation, better coexistence. Practical conclusion. Abandoning hasty judgments doesn't mean losing values, but expanding understanding. Each person carries a story that deserves to be heard before being judged. Final reflection. The more I judge, the less I learn. The more I listen, the more I grow. Tips for daily practice. Start the day deciding not to judge. Question your first impressions. Seek to know different stories. Celebrate diversity of experiences. Learn from new generations. Remember, each person we misjudge may be a lost opportunity for learning and connection. Personal appearance care. Self-love in the golden years. As I entered my 80s, I learned that taking care of one's appearance isn't vanity, but self-respect. Personal story. After retiring, I neglected my appearance. I always wore the same pajamas, rarely cut my hair. My daughter noticed my depression through these signs. Daily transformation. Morning routine. Invigorating shower with moisturizing soap. Clean and ironed clothes, even at home. Combing hair and shaving, light makeup. Light stretching exercises. Regular care. Monthly haircut. Bi-weekly manicure. Preventive medical checkups. Age-appropriate exercises. Appropriate attire. Comfortable but presentable clothes. Suitable fabrics for each season. Safe and comfortable. Pieces that are easy to put on. Eliminate what you no longer use. Daily care, skin hydration. Always use sunscreen, drink plenty of water. Balanced diet, necessary adaptations. Well-lit mirror products with large print clothes with practical closures. Non-slip footwear, experiences of change. Walking group. I started poorly dressed, embarrassed. Today, I'm an example of disposition, medical appointments. I began to be more respected when demonstrating self-care, family events, grandchildren proud of their well-presented grandparent, important investments, time, 30 minutes for morning grooming, weekly clothing planning, fixed schedules for care resources, quality, basic products, comfortable and durable clothes, essential services, hairdresser, podiatrist, energy, establish gradual routine, adapt care to disposition, celebrate small achievements. Conclusion: taking care of appearance isn't futility, but a vital part of well-being. It represents self-respect and dignity in the golden years. The conquest of respect, building bridges between generations. At 82, I learned that respect doesn't come with age, but with attitudes. Transformative experience. In the technology group at the local library, young people were teaching me about smartphones. Initially, I demanded respect for my age. Effective strategies. Intergenerational communication. Active listening without interruptions. Recognition of different perspectives. Exchange of experiences without imposition. Building credibility. Demonstration of updated knowledge. Admission of limitations. Willingness to learn. Practical actions. Participation in community activities. Contribution with relevant experiences. Support for youth initiatives. Behavioral changes in the family environment, from orders to suggestions, respect for children's decisions, participation without interference in public spaces, cordiality with everyone, patience in queues and services, gratitude for offered assistance, in social groups, constructive contributions, appreciation of other opinions, sharing experiences when requested, achieved results, improved relationships, greater closeness with grandchildren, intergenerational friendships, genuine mutual respect, personal benefits, continuous learning, more open mind, greater personal satisfaction, social impact, example for other seniors, bridge between generations, significant community contribution. Conclusion: respect is earned through actions, not age. I realized that my authoritarian posture was pushing people away. I changed my approach. I began to show genuine interest and gratitude for learning. Our experience has value when shared with humility and openness to learn. Freeing oneself from grudges. The power of forgiveness. I'll share how I learned to release grudges at 77 years old. Personal case. I spent 15 years not speaking to my brother because of an inheritance. Reconciliation only happened when he fell ill. I realized how much time we lost due to pride. Liberation process. Recognition. Identify active grudges. Assess their impact on health. Accept that the past doesn't change. Confrontation feelings journal. Therapy when necessary. Conversations with trusted people. Practical forgiveness. Start with small hurts. Establish new healthy boundaries. Practice self-compassion. Experienced benefits. Normalized blood pressure. Improved sleep. Renewed relationships. Years at 73, I realized that resisting changes only brings isolation. Technological changes. I was reluctant to use a smartphone until my grandson showed video calls with great-grandchildren. Today, I participate in WhatsApp groups and shop online. Practical adaptations, technology, weekly classes with young people, starting with basic functions, gradual progress, useful apps for seniors, flexible routine, adaptable schedules, new activities, healthy habits, relationships, online friendships, intergenerational groups, mutual learning benefits, greater independence, family connection, active mind, less loneliness. Personal example. I learned about digital payments at 70. Initial resistance. Today it facilitates life. Strategies, small steps. Daily practice, help when needed. Celebrate achievements. Conclusions. Change brings growth. Adaptability maintains relevance and connection. How to age with wisdom and grace. We addressed essential themes for a meaningful golden age. Balanced conversations. Listen more. Share with measure. Moderated pride. Value achievements without ostentation. Judgments. Avoid hasty conclusions. Seek understanding. Appearance, self-care is self-respect. Respect built with actions not demanded by age. Forgiveness. Liberation from grudges for better health. Adaptation. Embracing changes maintains alive connections. Friends, if this content helped you or someone close to you, leave your like and share it with family members. Your comments are valuable to continue this conversation about dignified aging. Together, we build a more connected and happier golden age.